At this time, IBM was completely dominating the computer industry, and it was called the Snow White, and there were 7 niche companies called the 7 dwarfs. One of these niche companies was Burroughs, where Dijkstra was the European Research Center. Another was Control Data Corporation, or CDC. They had a machine, CDC 1604, which was similar to the IBM 1719. But what was more important is that they had an engineer with the name Seymour Cray, who is extremely important to development of fast computers and in management of computer companies. He set out to build a machine which should be 50 times faster than their previous machine. And this took some time, and after 4 years the management got a little bit nervous and to see how maybe they could be complete someday. And Seymour Cray didn't want to be disturbed. For instance, management invited potential customers too frequently for Cray's taste, so that he should present the ideas, etc. And Cray's response to this was that he would either be allowed to move his lab to his hometown, Minneapolis, near Minneapolis actually, or he would quit. And nobody was allowed to disturb him there. Okay, so that's an interesting answer when the boss asks what you are doing for 4 years. But the interesting thing is that the president accepted, and the location where they moved was too distant for a one-day visit by car. But I mean, it should be in relatively close vicinity of the headquarters. So the machine that Seymour Cray worked on was a huge success. It was the fastest machine. I mean, CDC dominated the supercomputer industry during the 60s, when after it was released. Supercomputer, that means the fastest machine at a certain time. And this was the first superscalar computer with a mechanism called the scoreboard. Now the interesting thing is the IBM president. IBM had thousands of engineers, and this tiny niche company could beat them. So he asked approximately, how is it that this tiny company of 34 people, including the janitor, can be beating us when we have thousands of people? And Cray's reply, you just answered your own question. So what this shows is that a small group, relatively speaking, of talented and motivated persons can beat bigger organizations which are slower to move. Okay, so IBM couldn't just look, so they created also a remote lab of 200 engineers to build an even faster machine. It was intended to be highly superscalar, issue 7 instructions each clock cycle instead of normally only 1. But now we come to the interesting thing. It was impossible to create such a superscalar machine for their IBM 360 architecture. The instruction set made it impossible. So, I mean, the instruction set was too complicated to be suitable for a superscalar machine, and they canceled the project. And it's extremely important to have good instruction set architectures, because all future CPUs and optimizing compilers will use them. And as we will see later in this lecture, there is I wouldn't say war, but there is a serious competition between so-called CISC machines and RISC machines. And all your mobile phones, all new machines, all modern machines use the RISC concept. And most recently, Apple is throwing out the Intel x86 architecture, which originates from 1971. Well, the age doesn't matter, but it is a so-called complex instruction set, and in favor of their new M1 chip, which is ARM processors.